Mhm.
Hello, all, and welcome to the November 30th edition of Earth Nouveau Hub. We have special guest Melanie K here with us today, and thanks everyone for joining us. Melanie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Uh-oh, got to freeze for a second.
Okay, we can see you now.
Okay, there you are. Yeah.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Melanie Kay. I spent most of my developmental adult life in San Francisco. I was a somatic psychotherapist, licensed therapist. And through that process, I really got awakened to a lot of my psychic gifts. And so I got additional training in that and realized that a lot of my work is about working with the land and working with the energy grids on the land. And so that took me into lots of different spaces, lots of different countries. And I was doing that for a while until finally San Francisco was like, nope, no longer. Do you need to be here? And I left in 2018. I got spit out of San Francisco, and it was a blessing in disguise, as like spirit took me on this huge journey around the planet. So I've been almost all the continents besides Antarctica, working with the grids, working with all the major chakras of the planet. And yeah, I continue to do that work, as well as I have a website, Star Body Earth. So I'm starting to develop some coursework, doing some individual one-on-one work, trained as a Kundalini yoga instructor, and I am doing these earth activation tours. So now it's like, okay, you've done this work on your own in kind of incognito mode for a long time. Now it's time to open it up and actually start to train people on how to attune to the land and attune to these grids and work collectively. So that's a little bit about me.
Great, great. So I know you were just in the Himalayas,
Mm-hmm.
hiking around Mount Kailash.
Mm.
So can you talk a
We,
little bit about that?
yeah, so the very first, well, this vision to do these tours birthed in 2020, of course, Vision 2020, right? So I had the vision for it, and then I had all this huge plan laid out for 2020, and I ended up um, getting right back to Uluru in Australia, March 2020, and everything shut down. So I just took that as a blessing and said, okay, I'm going to be here for the pandemic, and I'll just ride that out. And now that things are opened up again, all these tours are coming to fruition again. So Ganesh Hamal, the sacred pilgrimage of Ganesh, was the first earth activation tour we did just last month. It was about, yeah, we got off the mountain November 15th. So that was 2 weeks ago. And we spent 2 weeks in the Himalayas trekking. And it was just beyond what I could have even planned for. Like we were 6 days camping out at the sacred lakes, Kalo and Sitakunda in Ganesh Hamal. And it was the first time tourists have walked through that valley, Ruvi Valley, since the 70s. So we actually got ourselves in the newspaper in Nepal, and we had the governor of that area like totally raving about us doing that pilgrimage. Most people who go to Nepal are trying to summit something. So it's like Everest Base Camp, Annapurna Base Camp, and all these base camps to try and summit a mountain. And we were there to visit these sacred lakes and do the sacred pilgrimage. So it was super special. We were out there, like I said, camping in the mountains for at least 6 days. We were camping, didn't see another tourist, not even a Nepali, like, you know, um, not anyone for 6 days. So it was actually a pretty difficult transition to come back from that, because you realize like timelessness. And there's just something that like the time has been stretched out ever since we got back from that. So yeah, we're pretty close to the Tibetan border, a lot of monasteries. We pass through stupas and the Tamang people living 100% self-sufficient, farming, village life. And you're just like, wow, there's a whole nother world out here that we came back to Kathmandu, and I was like, what? Like, how do I even face like a city and technology? Like it was like a foreign object to touch. So it's been an interesting transition. I think I'm still bridging. I'm still making that bridge. But yeah, it was super potent. We were walking on rocks that were quartz. We were walking on quartz that had kyanite running through it. Like I couldn't like for a whole entire day, maybe 2 days, we were walking on kyanite.
Wow.
Like that's the stone of alignment, you know? It's just like I just was when I first saw it, I just said, are you kidding me? I can't. Like
Amazing.
really?
Amazing.
Yeah. It was just yeah, I don't have words really. It's really hard to bring words back from that. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. I think every other year we're gonna have to bring a tour through there because it was so potent, and the people are just amazing, and they want more people to be coming through the villages like that and bringing more abundance to their villages in that way, and they saw just the energy and the kindness, and so they were like, next time call us up. And we stayed in homestays, so it wasn't even like guest houses, it wasn't tea houses, it was like, come stay at our house. We'll take a rooster from our village and like cook it up for you guys, you know.
Yeah, you can sleep
That
beside
night.
the cow. We'll just partition off the house.
That's exactly what happened. They're
Yeah,
like, here, take our room, we'll sleep
don't
in the barn.
don't mind the smoke.
That's exactly what it was. It was exactly that. Oh my God, all the
Oh,
clothes
the
came back
chickens hopped over again.
so smoky. We had so much smoke in our clothes. But yeah, we were staying in these karkas. Karkas meaning like they have this one part of the barn. It's not even a barn, it's really just like a stone house with a little wooden top. And one half is like where they have the fire pit. And you go and sit and you make all your meals and everything there. And then they have the other half is almost like a manger. It's like for the baby animals when they bring their animals up to the altitude. And so we pitched a tent in there.
Amazing.
I
But
don't know
there's
about
incredible.
you, but those guys wouldn't let me make my meals. They were always feeding me, nourishing
Exactly.
me. You know, just
Yep. Dalbot, 24-hour power. It was great. No, I loved it. I loved it. It was great.
Well, it's so interesting, being just out, right, in the middle of nature, because really, how many places I mean, there's lots of places, right, that don't have internet or phone signal, but really, I mean, here I am in San Francisco, right, which is, I have electrical lines right out in front of my bedroom window. I always hear the
Buzz.
so getting away from that, I think, is really nurturing and really important, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it was profound.
Yeah. I mean, I even think, I was in Isla Mujeres, over the 11/11 and the eclipse, and that place is really, really beautiful and really sort of like quiet compared to San Francisco, and coming back, right? It's like, oh my God, there's so much going on. But I can't even imagine like being out where you were, right? That's a whole nother level of detaching from the global narrative, right? And the
Well, I
global
can't,
electronics.
you have your clothes, you have a couple personal objects, maybe a little bit of bathroom stuff, which is basically, we couldn't even really use that because there's no showers, it's just like, but it's funny, like we didn't actually, not once did I smell like BO on anybody. Like it was like, actually, we wore the same clothes for days and it just was fine. It was fine. And yeah, we got smoky from the fire, like being with the fire. But at the end of the trek, we ended up coming through a village. We spent that we were like all celebratory because we saw people again, you know, after 6 days of not seeing another human being besides our little group. And then the next day we were in a hot spring, you know, so we just like cleansed it all out. And it was just like, okay, yeah, we came back, and, you know, you leave the stuff that you don't need to take on the track at your little hotel in Kathmandu. And I got my backpack back with the stuff I didn't bring. And I was looking at it and I was like, what is all this stuff? Like, what is all this stuff? What I had books, I had tech stuff, like I had an iPad in there and a computer. And I'm like, I don't need, what did I need all that? Like I just was like, ugh, I want to get rid of it immediately. I just really like wanted to get rid of more stuff. And I only I've been traveling, you know, pretty much since 2018 with two backpacks. Like I have a big backpack and I have a small backpack. And even the stuff that I had in my backpack, I was like, I need to get rid of more. Like I need to let go more stuff. Like we don't need this. So yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that
and
when
then
I
now,
came back.
no, I'm in Guam. So I got invited to Guam. So that was another little energy work mission that I was like, okay, I surrender. My friend invited me to Guam. She put me up in this little mini condo that she has, this 1-bedroom condo. It's a US military base island in the Pacific, just outside of Korea and Japan. And I didn't know anything about it really until about a month and a half ago, 2 months, when she invited me. Of course, we've talked about this, Tanya. It's right on top of the Mariana Trench, the deepest place in the ocean. And it's created by 3 ancient volcanoes, you know, so much so they're like, this isn't really a volcanic island. It's more of a volcanic coral island. So it's been around for a very long time. But I get here and it's a US occupied island, right? So, and it's around Thanksgiving and the holidays. So my friend was like, let's go shopping on Black Friday weekend. So from the Himalayas, where I'm like, let me get rid of more stuff. We go to the mall, a US mall, basically, for Black Friday sales. And I'm looking around and I just got so overwhelmed. I got so overwhelmed. And I'm looking at all these shops in the mall and I'm just thinking, this is just garbage stuff. It's just stuff that's just, it's throwaway stuff. It's not even like valuable in any way or shape or form. Like it's just crap. And I just got so, I don't know, I had a moment. I was like, okay, accept that. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's part of it too. There's the duality. Just understand that's like the stretch. Those are the poles. So it is.
Yeah, totally testing you. Like, can you come back? Can you handle this?
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
is it okay?
Is it okay?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, those are the poles, you know, those are the extremes. I was like, okay, that's the stretch. How can I be a bridge? You know, love that. Okay. All in
Yeah.
between. All that's in between.
You know, and appreciating and seeing seeing the value in everything, right? And it might not be for you, right, any longer, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have value to someone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found myself, you know, returning from my vacation and getting overwhelmed by all the clutter in my house. I've lived in my house for 20 years. And so it's like, oh my God, oh, so much stuff, so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's Nepal or Kathmandu that really kicked off my spiritual journey.
Mm.
I just ended up there by happenstance. And then I realized by hindsight, but that was like the spiritual commerce center that really kicked things into high gear for me. Because it's just a super mystical place.
Oh, it's so
Like
powerful.
just, yeah, it's just mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had spent a month in India before that, like in the Himalayas and, you know, Uttarakhand. So it is in the Himalayas. I was there in Rishikesh in an ashram and we were doing spiritual practice. But the frequency shift, even from India to Nepal, is like massive. I just feel like India holds this lower chakra body, and then you go up to Nepal, and it's like all the upper chakras of the Himalayan range.
Nepal's kind of got that spine energy where it's kind
Yeah.
of like literally how I said the spiritual commerce center, where you have the east and west and north. You have all these directions is meeting, and it's a
Mhm.
huge cultural center.
It is. It's really it's a big activation place. Yeah. Yeah. And if we
So-
talk about the earth chakras, if we talk about like Mount Kailash being the crown chakra, right, up in Tibet, I mean, at this point in time, China's occupied Tibet, of course, and I don't think there's any permissions right now to enter in. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it, but I think it's pretty much like we're still sealed off. So the closest you can really get is Nepal to that crown chakra. That Yeah, I hold Nepal as like the third eye. It's like got the Shiva energy, but also combined with the Buddhist tradition. So there's a lot of Hindu, Buddhist crossing, and they respect both and they allow for both. And yeah, it's just, even the people from India to Nepal, it's just way more chill. I mean, you get so much just unnecessary honking and pollution, everything going on in India. And blessed be, it's total chaos magic. I love India as well. But you get to Nepal and it's like, okay, people are more chill, they're more respectful, they're really welcoming of so much. Yeah, so it's a beautiful bridge place.
You have more religions, more traditions, and less of that traditional steamroller of India. That's
Yes.
just like, this is the way. Get out of the way.
That's
Honk,
right.
honk.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
steamroller's coming. Honk, 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 honk.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and here comes a scooter with a whole family and a goat, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah.
So Sean, what was the awakening experience that you had
Well, see,
in Nepal?
mine was more in hindsight. Because like I like kind of like Melanie, I was in India first, and then I needed to redo my visa. So like a friend I made in India said his brother lived in Nepal, ended up in Nepal, and just it was just full tourist having fun, and went on some cool treks, just off the beaten path. Ended up in some weird places. Just like Melanie ended up in someone's boulder basement house subdivided with animals on one side and like people on the other side, and came back. Then all of a sudden the life just started changing little by little.
Yeah.
It definitely is probably what got me, like, activated my Chinese medicine center, because just did.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're on your path and purpose.
It helped.
Yeah.
It really, really did.
Mhm.
It
Great.
took me a while to get out of that too. The like you said, that timeless energy, let's throw away everything energy. It can be a pretty dangerous energy. And so the life, it put me into like a poverty for a while, just because I was like throwing everything, like, or just being very extremely, extremely resourceful to an extreme. But then once I rebounded from that, it was a great equilibrium.
Great. Great. Very exciting. Ah. So, when we're talking about Mother Earth, right, and all of the points, one of the things that that I see when I'm looking at Mother Earth and looking at this transition that she's making back to her purpose as a seventh dimensional seed planet, and the grid work that all of us do every day. Like I see now Alfredo's out taking a walk, right, in a regular place that he goes, right, walking the path, walking and clearing and cutting that line as boots on the ground. And you know, what I see, the sort of way I see it is that there's a number of different like layers of this Earth blueprint, right? From the 3D all the way up through, you know, her 12D capacity. But, you know, some of these grid layers have been deconstructed, you know, broken. And so we're recreating the energy pathways really for her to come back into that space that is her purpose, right? Her path and purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what really pushed me out of San Francisco. And of course, we do so much of this work on the higher dimensional level, and maybe we're not conscious of it as we're doing it. We just feel guided and we just go to where we need to go and things happen and shift. But I really do believe that that I really got led to each one of the major earth chakras from 2018 until 2020. It was 2 years, and it was just like, go here. And Egypt, like we have the pyramids behind us, right? So I thought Egypt was years out. Like I really was like, there's no way I'm going to make it to Egypt for years. And then the minute I got out of San Francisco, I was in India, and then it was boom, like come to Egypt. I was like, okay, like I got invited by a woman. And so I didn't even know until later, of course, in retrospect, like I think what I was doing was some of that deconstruction, some of that like releasing these major points, because there's a major shift happening right now in the Earth's geometry of the grid. You know, like we're going into new geometry. The core of the planet is upgrading, right? So she's vibrating and to a different frequency. And I'm sure you guys maybe have talked about this in the Earth Nouveau Hub. It's like, okay, she's going from this star tetrahedron shape to this like dodecahedron, incredible primary geometry, right? She has many geometries and you can tap into a lot of them, but the primary geometry was the star tetrahedron shape. And now it's like the primary geometry is this dodecahedron shape. And so new that have been strong. Oops.
You blipped out. You blipped out.
Yeah. Sorry.
We had
Maybe.
new something.
It's like new, but it's not new. Like these new points, they're not new. They've been there, but they're getting powered up in a way that they haven't been before. Like they're getting stronger in a way that haven't been before. So like those points are now awakening post-pandemic, or like, you know, they've been ramping up, I should say. And I think, you know, I never wanted to go to Darwin, Australia. Never. Like I was like, I don't care. But I got pushed there. Like I really got pushed there. I like against my will a little bit. Like I was wanting to go to Western Australia, and they're like, nope, you're like car breakdown. You got a flat tire. You have to go this way. You have to go this way. And now you're stuck here because, you know, the car's engine's failing. You have like, so we got stuck there. I had to get an apartment. And I sit there and
it's
be
40
like,
degrees. You got to go.
I'm like, what am I doing here in crocodile country? I can't even get in the ocean because there's crocodiles, you know, like I'm in this tropical place, can't even cool off in the ocean because there's these like ancient saltwater crocodiles that'll eat you.
Ancient death
What am
pool.
I doing here? But it turns out that place is a super incredible golden spiral. If you look at the land and the way it curves around, even the highway, the way you enter into Darwin, this golden spiral, the water and the land are doing this incredible thing. And then the energy was just so potent. And lo and behold, it's the Western gateway to Asia in terms of the military. So it's like they have all this locking and it's from the British rule that they had all these bindings on that golden spiral, and they were utilizing that for the military purposes. And I finally got it. I was like, holy shit, I got to deconstruct that military binding, because they had a 12-pointed star around the airport there. I swear to you, it wasn't even an airport. It was like a star base, you know? So I started doing that work. I started deconstructing some of those points, doing some light work. And sure enough, psychically attacked left and right. Like I was getting so much interference. I had to get other people. I did a workshop on earth activations so that I could gather more people so we could do this work. finally I had to leave Darwin, power up on the land in other places, come back to finish that. And then, yeah, of course, here I am in Guam. I'm almost afraid to say that I'm on Guam because we're not even doing our little Earth activation point until Monday. So we've been doing it already. South side, we're gonna hit the north side tomorrow, Friday. But yeah, I'm even nervous to like say, I haven't posted on social media that I'm here. I'm just like, no, I don't want to even put it out there.
Incognito, under the radar. Wear your
you
fox
know,
cloak. Stay
but it's
close.
just so fun. I'm like, okay. And even when I was in Darwin, what the last couple of weeks I was there after we completed the work, I did a sailing class and we met the like head honcho of the Marines, the US Marines that was out in Darwin. Like he's meeting with all these generals that want to bring more forces into that place so they don't have the infrastructure. So there's this major effort right now to build infrastructure because of all this tension with China and with all the Asian things. So of course Guam is doing the same. And I've met 2 real estate agents since I've been here. They're talking about how much development there's going on in the military here, just to bring more boots on the ground.
You're totally thrown into the thick of it after Nepal.
I know. They're just like, okay,
Here
next
you go.
vision.
You know what? You're so powerful and mighty. Here's the military-industrial conflict or complex. What are you going to do with this?
I know.
Check. I'm
I'm gonna drink some tuba. You know, they have a local fermented coconut wine here. So we got some tuba the other day. That's what it's called, tuba. the local wine.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I'm already in with the light worker crowd here. So they're putting a massive. We're going to have probably 20 people at the Earth activation that we're going to do on Monday, and we're going out in a boat on Sunday. So we're doing
Sounds
it.
like fun.
It's happening. Can't complain at all. It's good.
Well, and I think that it's really important, right, to have people together. We can't do this on our own, right? We're all working together, right, to each of us do our part. Right. And sometimes it's just being boots on the ground, you know, and feeling guided to move this rock over here or drop a crystal or, dance in a spiral or walk in an infinity symbol. So listening to our intuition in that way, I think is really, really important. Yeah.
The sacred pilgrimages. They feel so good, and I often think of us like little honeybees. And like when we go out to these sacred sites and we pollinate them, and we bring our essence, and we take the essence of the other people who've been traveling around and their energies that have been stored in the ground, and we bring it back home. But we totally don't need to physically go, but it's so externally validating. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like if we could do the inward journey and have the inspiration to believe in it and have fun, but just going in the immersive experience and actually being there, it has so much more, not control, but it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Things co-create with you a lot more.
Tangible.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel it in your body and you can feel it in your cells, Yeah. I concur. And that's kind of what the idea is behind these Earth activation tours. It's like if you don't have a sense of what a vortex feels like on the planet, like come, let's like do the work together. Let's like attune, because not only are you gifting the planet with your higher star knowledge, when we drop in a channel of light, but you receive so much from those vortexes as well, and so much healing. And, it's just a huge exchange. And, the group that I used to work with before used to call it land healing. And I actually feel like this is not accurate, because we're not really healing the land. Like she's so far more powerful than we are, like so far more powerful. She's going to do her thing. We just get to experience it and get to have an exchange in a relationship, and so that's why I'm really like more focused on calling it earth activation, because it's like we're doing some activating work. We're able to do some clearing work, you know, with our transmutation capacity. But yeah, she's giving us a huge gift when we do that work. You know, it's a really big exchange.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Melanie. How long have you been doing the tourism groups?
I mean, I really just the first real tour was Nepal. I had intended to start that whole experience in 2020, and then everything said, nope, wait, you're going to be grounded for a while. And so I just, yeah, it gave me the time to really tune into the pure intention of it, you know, and because I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants in 2020, you know, I was just like, oh, I get this is the vision, this is what I'm supposed to do, let's do it. But I didn't have the groundedness around it. I didn't have my website cultivated and all that. So now the Earth Activation Tour in Nepal was the first one. Egypt's coming up in February. We're going to go to Egypt. It's a 13-day experience. And I was going to do Ireland. I actually think I'm going to drop it because it seems like too much at this time, but Shasta and in the fall for sure. Yeah, I just see August in Shasta. So really want to bring people to I mean, I spent a lot of time in Mount Shasta being from the Bay Area. It's going up there all the time. And I know a lot of places that I'd love to bring people and have people ground into the medicine that's there. Yeah.
That's okay. That's great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I wasn't sure how long you did it for, but I was going to ask you if you ran into any very airy fairy type of person on your in your group yet.
Well, you know, I do know quite a bit of land workers that are, you know, light workers, land workers that do this kind of work. And some of them are more grounded than the others. I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. Either head in the clouds or the head in the own ass.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like, yeah, the kind of, I don't know, the Instagram spirituality, I guess you could maybe call it like that like beauty thing. I mean, I'm not so much about that. Like I'm terrible about promoting, actually. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. Come if you want, and let's co-create, you know, but I'm not trying to be like priestess, even though I am a priestess. Like I'm not trying to be like
Gotcha.
the model priestess, you know, like poses for Instagram in
I'm
front of the
healing the
pyramid in her
land.
robes, and you know what I mean? Like
The earth would
I love
die
them.
without us.
I love them. I love them. They're gorgeous, but it's not me.
Well, and that, you know, that's it. We have to be grounded, right?
Yeah.
It's part
Yeah.
of the work, the
Yeah.
daily practice, right? Being connected and having that experience with Earth Mother, right?
Mhm.
As our, you know, our sister, our mother.
Yeah. And actually just a big portal opened up just recently back into Cuba. So I think I'm going to be bringing a group into Cuba, hopefully for Carnival. Santiago is going to be wild, but yeah, I've been to Cuba a few times. It's the closest you can get to the fire crystal of Atlantis. So I really believe that the fire crystal is down underneath the ocean there in the Bimini. Just like, I think that's why Guantanamo is still out there. You know, I think there was a huge push to try and shut down Guantanamo, and Obama said, sure, we're going to do it. We're going to get everybody out of there and shut it
Psych.
down. And it never got shut down. Why? Because that is the closest possible place that you could dive and try and find that fire crystal. They'll never find it because the intention's all wrong. It's never going to be shown to them. But you can feel it from Santiago de Cuba on the east side of Cuba. And that town is like the most preserved Cuban city because there's no airport that goes into it. You have to fly in, you have to drive, and you know, same with, I mean, it's just right next door to Guantanamo. So I'm hoping to bring, and there's a beautiful carnival that happens in July, end of July. So I already talked to my friend Waldo, and he's like, how many people are you bringing? I'll get you all set up. We're like, yes.
When is that carnival?
End of July,
End
end
of
of July, right in the middle of the storm season. Why not? You know,
Why
like hot,
Hurricane blows through, no
sweaty,
problem.
hurricanes,
Yeah.
carnival,
Did any of
fire
your
carnival.
families or parents like do that thing where like they take a picture of the kids behind like jail bars? And I'm just thinking like, okay, kids, we'll get a picture of you behind the maximum security prison. And then, it's like,
Crazy. No, I don't know about that, but man, if you get even close to Guantanamo, like we drove to, there's another town that's pretty off the map. It's also very well preserved. And you have to drive from Santiago de Cuba through like the street that goes by the base to get there. And police checkpoints, they check your ID, they check your passport. Like it's maximum security over there. They don't want you getting close. Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, how is that possible, right? Like we have such a tension with Cuba. How is it even possible that we are able to even be on their land? Is beyond me. It's totally beyond me. I don't understand. But yep.
Yeah. Well, I was there in 2019, in November of 2019, or wait, 2018. Yeah, we went on a cruise from Miami and landed in Havana. Right. So we got to experience, wonderful music and wonderful mojitos and, did a lot of walking around, and the people were just so kind, and so proud of their country. Yeah. And there was, I mean, I look around and there's, just so much poverty and things are falling apart, right? And they're like, look at my beautiful country. I'm like, yeah, all right. Just, just so proud and kind. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those places where, to the naked eye, you would see that it's in ruin. But if you actually look at the culture and look at the richness of the people internally, you're like, whoa, they have so far more than we have, because they have organic food. They've never used pesticides on their food. There's a social system, takes care of everybody. There's no one that's homeless. They're all very well educated. Everyone earns the same amount of money, whether you're a doctor or whether you're, an educator or you're, a vendor. Everyone earns the same amount of money. And yes, on one level, there's a lot of people that are like, rah, rah, like we don't have stuff, right? They don't have stuff. They don't have the same, like if you go into stores, there's really nothing on the shelves. The only things that are coming in are like maybe from Mexico, maybe China sports a kind of like stuff market, right? But they have everything else, and they have time to cultivate their arts and their music, and it's very valued. Like the music is valued, the dance is valued, and so the heart and the care for one another, like and the families and the community, it's like all there. So even if you look and you're like, wow, they don't have what we have, they have something far greater than we have. Like it's just like, yeah, I just
so
see
like,
that place is really that like wealthy compared to like what we just don't.
Yeah. I think that, each one of us, as we're mindful about what is really important. I mean, I think that's shifting, right? I think we've gone through, right, since the 80s, this kind of consumerism. And I think people now, the younger generations, are choosing experience over material things.
Yeah, well, even like the healthcare too. Like I was really like struck by that. So, there's a doctor in every neighborhood. You go to the doctor's house and you sit and have a cup of tea and you talk to them, and they give you a prescription. And you go to the pharmacy and you get your prescription. Like that's just how it works. Like even when I was in India and I needed some, antibiotics. I went to the pharmacy. I paid $1.50 for antibiotics. I didn't need a prescription. I just knew what I needed. I went to the pharmacy. I said, could you have this? He gave it to me. It's $1.50. I was like, are you kidding me? What pathways do we have to go down, you know, in the States to like, and how much expense does it cost for what? You know, it doesn't cost that much to produce that medicine. It's just like this very bizarre, you know, system that keeps people sick, and it doesn't allow people agency. And, you know, it's just really like that to me alone is like such an indicator of like, I don't know, where did we go wrong there? Universal
with
health
this,
care should be everywhere. Like it just should be a baseline, like thing that everyone should have.
we can see the different cultures, and then we can see the different restrictions and opportunities that each one has.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Sean, you live in Toronto, so you have a pretty good healthcare system there, I think.
It's not too bad. Can take some time, but in generally a lot of stuff is free.
Yeah.
And like and with us in like North America, like in some of these parts of the world, we get the buying power. So at least we have the opportunity to like go around the world and go wherever we want, which is
true.
its own unique gift.
That's
It
right.
is its own unique gift, definitely.
Yeah. I've definitely encountered that. It's like, whoa, like the US passport is a power. Like I realize like this huge privilege is power. Like, you know, I made a great friend in Nepal, and their passports ranked 101 in the world, you know? So like there's 30 countries that they could go to without a visa. And they're all impoverished countries. So it's just like, wow, like if you wanted to travel, you don't even have the opportunity. If you have the money, even, you know, like it's very difficult.
And we've all been teenagers too. Like, I hate this place. This is the worst place ever. And you know, it's paradise.
Yeah.
But it's like, I can't stand it. Literally can't stand it. These are my bars.
Right.
Yeah.
The grass is greener over there.
But I don't know. What do you guys feel about like the border? Like, do you feel like I mean, I have this faith and this heart knowing that in the next 10 years, like the borders are going to drop, but I don't know how other people feel about that. I actually feel at some level, when we vibrate high enough, we're going to be like, what is this? Why do we have these borders, you know, to our countries? I'm not sure. I'd love to hear what people think about that, because yeah, to me, it just seems so benign.
May I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lana, go.
Hi, Lana.
Hi. Hello, guys. How are you? Hello, Melanie.
Hi, Lana.
How are you? It's funny you say that, because just like a few days ago, I had this vision of all of it dropping and disappearing. So what you're saying there, I kind of see that happening already. There's something that I feel, some kind of frequency that I feel that needs to be in place. And I feel like we're getting closer and closer to that.
Mhm.
And eventually, all of the borders will make no sense to anybody anymore.
That's right.
And I saw it all like just dissolving, like when you watch a movie and you see stuff just dissolving away in some of these science fiction movies and disappearing. That's kind of how I saw the vision happening. Like it just melted away into fizzle out. There's nothing there.
Mhm.
So the border is going to be that forest over there, that mountain, that river, that giant plains, that desert.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if you don't have a boat to cross over, that'll be your border.
It sure will. And man, I could use a bicycle.
Well, what did they say? The Berlin Wall came down in one day, right?
Yeah, and I like with us, I think a lot of it's an internal journey. And like states and provinces and countries, they're all going to be inspired from the inside out. And while the time being, like sicknesses, it's always contained. And eventually as each place raises its own individual frequency, and as they appreciate other places raising their individual frequency, and we simultaneously affect each other, little by little, each place is just going to keep healing itself, and then become more and more interconnected.
Yeah, I mean, look at the group that we're talking with today. Nobody's in the same place, right? But here we are meeting in this digital space, right? Where we can come together as open hearts and listen and explore and yeah, appreciate.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like talking about Nepal, like right in 2019, I was there. That's where I met one of the guides that helped me create this tour. But in 2019, I did the Annapurna circuit on my own. And I remember one night we were in one of these tea houses and there were 5 of us at the table. It was someone from China, someone from Russia, someone from the US, someone from Canada, and someone from Germany. We're all sitting together and having beer together and enjoying tukpa. And it's like, we were all having a great conversation. We're sitting here, like we're like the UN right now, like sitting here enjoying just commonality. And we're like, wow, if only our politicians could sit around the table and do this together.
Did you notice every once in a while you ran into a giant political fellow who spent their limitless time extensively studying politics or getting angry?
I didn't find that. I never saw that. Yeah.
So nice to like communicate with other people from other countries because we get to like indulge in other people's, the way they do things is it's always a rewarding interaction for me. I love it. Like meeting, like get to work with people from China, running people from like Spain and Germany. It's there's like a gap that bridges when the communications occurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Majorly.
Speaking of offerings and eliminating borders, last week I was giving an offering north of where I am. Right now I'm close to the Pacific Ocean in Colombia, and I was going to the mother lagoon of this territory. And my car broke down, and I thought, I have this giant offering, and I am not used to getting on the bus to go give an offering, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I took a bus, and a journey that would have taken 6 hours ended up taking a lot more. So when I was on the bus, the entire bus was full of people from Haiti, from Haiti, and they were going to cross from Colombia to Panama. And when I was there, I realized this is why I needed to take the bus, because all of these children were so curious about my backpack. I mean, they were all over my backpack. And the Haitian mothers and the fathers were like trying to keep the children away from my backpack with the offering. And I was telling them, no, it's okay. It's okay. They can be around the offering. They're meant to be here with the offering. So I talked to them on the journey, and I asked them about crossing from Colombia to Panama, because on the news we hear it's very dangerous. And they told me, we've done it several times. We're trying to get to the US and we haven't been able to, and we will keep doing it until we get there. So it was so incredibly powerful to hear this family that was just not afraid at all. This is just what they're going to do. They're going to walk there and take buses. And so for them, there is no boundaries, there is no borders. They are going to do it anyway.
They're already holding up your vision, Lana.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, we are actually citizens of this world.
That's
I
right.
mean, when we think about our past lives and how many places we've been born in past lives in different spots on the earth, I mean, to me, when we come here, we make an agreement with the earth, a contract with the earth, to become a part of her dreaming mind, to be the citizen of earth. So what is all this nonsense about borders, eh? That's the way
Thousands
I
of
like to
years
look
of
at it.
dogma.
Yeah.
Well,
Again.
yeah. Or, like all of these politicians' karma. Because really, they're just playing some kind of power story out. They're just needing to play some story out about power and control. And, you know, in some ways I can have compassion for that, but the vibration is rising fast. It's amplifying quick. So it's going to shake out. It's going to shake down. I really do believe that. And hopefully these folks are going to wake up to what the real deal is, the real heart energy is.
Heaven on earth.
It's about offer, you know, it's about sharing. It's about community. It's about, you know, equanimity.
Yeah.
It's about enjoying this together, you know, and finding that divine purpose, because it's definitely, the divine purpose isn't about control. Let's just clue them into that. But you know what? The people that are in alignment, like, you know, this group and several others, and it's amplifying more and more. We're kind of just holding the space and being patient and waiting for them to like get with the program here. Oh,
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, in the in the healing work that I do,
Yeah.
I see, you know, when people come to me for the first time, it's almost like they're ready to get off the hamster wheel, right? They've been running on the hamster wheel, like, you know, working the 9-to-5 job, and they know that something is shifting for them, are ready to move to the next level, right? And so with each heart that opens, you know, to their own path and purpose, it works like the pebble in the pond that just ripples outwards, creating that community, creating that connection, and creating an awakening, one person by one person. Yeah. I think of Melanie, the work that we did at the Bighorn Medicine Wheel.
oh yeah.
And it was like a dead spot on the earth. You know, we expected it. We walked up this mountain at night, you know, with the moon is full, we'll be able to see, no problem. And all of a sudden this like fog came in and we couldn't see shit. And we, you know, had these tiny little headlamps. And finally, I don't know how we found this medicine wheel, but it was, we stood there and you had that giant piece of pink halite.
Yeah.
You know, we stood there and it was like a total dead zone. It was so strange how dead that energy was. And so we, you know, did some unbinding work and some, you know, some prayers and some dancing, and all of a sudden like this stargate opened back up. And we could see all of these, well, I could see all these galactic races like standing at the corner as Melanie was working in the center, and it was just this beautiful, almost like the spirit of Gaia rose up in fire in the center of this medicine wheel, and it was all of a sudden like open and a place for diplomacy, you know, and celestial mediumship of peace. Right, as we're grounding and you know, opening up this energy, was almost like that was sort of like a cork, right, that allowed more higher frequency energy to connect and ripple through, right, that whole space in that area. So it's just amazing to me what is possible, you know, what is doable. We do what we're guided to do, and sometimes it's just a tiny little shift, and sometimes it's a giant like cork that blows out. So
Sounds like you opened the champagne bottle.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. Tanya was holding space for the Galactic Council. I was like, dragons, you know, it was like so many dragons going through there. And I left this big huge pink halite crystal that we had prayed on at the grandmother tree at Devil's Tower, right? We had come from Devil's Tower, we're guided there, and we really kind of happened upon it on accident, didn't we? Like we drove through and I was like, what's this place, the medicine wheel? And you're like, oh my god, I've always wanted to go there. And that's actually a really fun story, because I ended up going back there the next year because that was around the summer solstice. You can only get up to that place. It's at 10,000 feet. So you can only go up there in the summertime or the fall because it's snow covered the rest of the time.
And we were there in June and there was snow. We were hiking through snow.
We went through snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went back there during the eclipse with my friend Anka, and we went up to that site and did another little piece of work and came down to this canyon where they have petroglyphs that's just south of it. You know, we decided to camp there. And in the morning, I had these like sun and moon yoga pants on, you know, and I'm walking through the canyon looking at the petroglyphs, and this woman was like, I love your pants. And I was like, cool, thanks. And then we start talking about how we were just at the medicine wheel, and she was an archaeoastronomer studying that medicine wheel. She wrote a book about it, and she had a picture from the year before with her friend holding up the pink halite crystal. They couldn't believe that it was in the middle of the medicine wheel. It was in her book, a picture of the pink halite crystal that I left the year before was in her book, and she gave me a signed copy. So, you know, you can't make that shit up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's
So
amazing.
that was the crystal you guys left there, and she found it.
Yeah, because I got this.
It was huge.
It was huge.
Really,
Oh wow!
I don't know how you checked it up there in your backpack in the dark.
No, I know I
Willpower.
did. I was like, it has to come. I had my little magic bag with me. I was like, it's got to come with me. And then I was like, I got to leave it. And you were like, really? And I was like, yep.
Was it very heavy?
It was. It was a big. It was huge. It was like this big. And
I
but
mean,
it
it was at least 15 pounds, about like that big.
I
and
don't know.
flat, but
It was
10
it was flat.
and 10 anyway.
Come on, we're telling a story here.
Small baby.
Think of it like a
Baby.
fish.
And the fish was this
Oh.
big. No, it was big. It was
No, but
big.
the thing was, like, I had brought it to this ceremony that was a pre-Sundance ceremony at Devil's Tower, and all these women were doing their prayer ties around this crystal. I brought it, and then when we took it, it was like, okay, this has a lot of charge in it. It's a salt-based crystal, so it absorbed it all, and it was like, okay, this has to be in the center of this circle. Yeah, but a year later, boom, it's in the book.
So, what did you think of the Devil's Tower? What did you interpret it as being?
Well, you know, the Lakota don't, obviously, I think all these really super magical, mystical, sacred sites get a bad rap from the white guys that are like, oh, it's devils this, or it's, you know, underworld that, because I think there's a lot of things happened there, probably when there was a lot of infighting, where, you know, people would just disappear into those sites, you know, and so they were like, oh, it has to be devils something. So obviously it's not Devil's Tower. They think it's a big volcanic pyre. It's not. There's no volcanic activity in that area whatsoever. You know, they believe it's a big grandmother tree.
You're in the right crowd here, Melanie.
Yeah,
You just say it.
it's a grandmother redwood tree. It birthed all the other redwood trees, you know, and it's petrified. It's a petrified tree stump. I mean, it's like the Avatar story. If you just like take that movie and see, you know, like what happened with that tree in that movie, it's like that, you know, like it was a huge, life-giving, magical place. And so there's a lot of stories about, and during that summer solstice, you have the meeting of the Ursas with Pleiades. And so there's a lot of stories about the seven sisters running from the bears, and the bears coming up and clawing down the rock, but the rock lifted the sisters up. And so there's a lot of like mythology around that meeting happening in the sky. And when we did the meditation, there were 7 of us women who did fasting for 4 days, did prayer work, and went into the mountain. I found myself in a cave. I was fasting. I laid down, and I don't even know if it was a waking dream or a dream, but I had this vision of us. It was almost like we were standing around this massage table with just a sheet over it, and then the sheet kind of came into body, and then this grandmother just took the sheet off and was like, I'm going to make some tea. And she was just like revived. Like it was just this thing where she was revived, and she told me to call her Matri. And that's what That's what I call her.
Mhm.
She's grandmother spirit. Amazing grandmother spirit there.
So for me,
And
when I look at the picture of Devil's Tower, it does look like a tree stump to me, like a giant tree stump.
yeah.
So, I
And
mean,
there's
it's
all
so
these
old.
crystal caves that go underneath, like in what's the place, the cowboy place that we went to, Tanya? It's like Deadwood, or what's it
Yeah,
called?
Deadwood,
It's like
Deadwood.
Deadwood and those
Devil's Tower,
places.
Deadwood.
I know.
There she
You
is.
know.
There she is.
There she is. So if
Mica
you,
Setonia Pietiapoli, celestial portal of creation woman.
yeah. So, and that's where they filmed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's like that's the center point of.
Mm.
So there's a lot of mystical energy, or there's a lot of Sasquatch energy there. There's a lot of star being energies there. But yeah, the caves, the crystal caves that are around there, are thought to be her old root system.
Mm, interesting.
And, with the meditations I've done around her energy, I can see the way that that root system, filters and connects to all of the trees in North America. Yeah. Connected by mycelium and tree roots. Yeah. So it's like a sentient, conscious, grandmother energy.
Sounds like more like a great grandmother energy.
Great grandmother.
She's like
big
really,
time.
really old. Yeah.
Lana, that would be a good road trip for you. It's really not that far driving. And there's a campground right at the base there.
Yeah.
And a hotel within a short walk.
It'll be something I'd like to see. I mean, I've been to Wyoming a few times, but on the west side of Wyoming. This is on the east side, so yeah. Maybe one of these days a road trip will be good.
Yeah. Camping in the summertime
Yeah.
under the tree. Yeah. It's a beautiful little trail around, a number of trails, around that area.
You know,
too.
I didn't know that they had caves down there though, so that's interesting that you're mentioning caves. So
That's where I picked up that halite. So like that pink halite crystal, I don't know if it came from those crystal caves, but they certainly do have crystal shops there. And
Maybe someone dropped it off a year ago.
Yeah,
I think you got that one. I think you got that one in Deadwood.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I walked in. It was like $144. I was like, done.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, sure.
Great.
like Sean said,
and
maybe somebody dropped it off where you picked it up. You took it somewhere else. Somebody will pick it up from where you left it.
exactly. And
When the
that,
right time.
that medicine wheel, I ended up finding an ancient map of the medicine wheel and all the spokes that came out of that medicine, because there's 28 stones in that medicine wheel. And they had spokes coming out from that, and it went to Chaco Canyon, it went to Devil's Tower or Matri, or there was just several places. The Coral place in Florida, like it was like connected to all these other Shasta, all these other vortexes on the North American continent. Yeah, up in Lake Louise. So that was a fun little find.
Yeah.
I think I have that photo up on my Instagram. So
when you think about all that stuff that you find everywhere, I think about how Andrew talks about the 9 fortification of Earth. So there's 9 layers of things being placed everywhere on Earth, and so when you go different places, you encounter them and they come up one layer at a time.
Well, and depending upon what kind of frequency and density you are holding, you can either see it or not, right? And it could be disappearing and reappearing.
Yeah. So many timelines being played out right now. Even just like recently, I did a a deep dive into Vedic astrology because I was studying Western astrology for a while. And then when I got the download about the Vedic astrology being the actual sky, because if you really, like, we have these apps now, you can look at sky view, you can see where the moon is, you can see what constellation it's in. Everyone in Western astrology is like, oh, it's the moon in Scorpio. Actually, like, the Western astrology system is 23 degrees off from where the actual sky is right now. The guys in India have been tracking the sky the whole time because they are the ones who had the download in the first place. They sold that information to the Persian kings, who sold it to the Greeks, who sold it to the Romans. So they've been using the sky map from, I don't know what era, but it was like hundreds of years ago. And the Vedic guys have been keeping up with the calculations and tracking the precession of the equinoxes. And they're like, yeah, the spring equinox is not in Aries anymore. But the Roman, like the Western astrology is saying like, oh, the spring equinox is what kicks off the elliptical, in Aries. It's 23 degrees off. So people that are tracking their Western charts are actually, it's like their first house is in the second house. The second house is the house of materialism and what we actually, like ground into our physical world. It's not a personality. So everyone's 23 degrees. When I found that out, because I was like so committed, so committed to being 4 times over Scorpio. I was like, oh, I have this stellium in Scorpio. I'm this big transformational witch, and I'm like that's what I do. And now it's like, oh no, Virgo, Libra. Like that's like.
So as you're saying the story, I'm thinking about the story was probably told 23 different times, and each time the story was being told, it was 1 degree of separation till it got to 20 degrees. So that's kind of funny to me.
It's amazing. Once I realized, like once I read my what I call the true chart, like what I was, where my chart really was, and my karma, what really was when I was born, I was like, oh God, thank God, I can just like be in balance now. I can be grounded. Like I had this, but it was fine. Like that was my progression. So it was just a timeline leap, it was like, okay, my consciousness is ready to actually accept that. And even when I was in India and I was in the ashram, we're with the Vedic astrologer teacher. And then there's this guy who's studying the Vedas, who understands Vedic astrology. He's still doing Western astrology charts. He's like, people aren't ready. They're not ready. They're not ready to like accept that timeline right now. It's like, okay. So he accepts that. He still works. He's like, consciousness has to come on its own pace. Said, okay, that's cool. But that's just a little sample of like how many timelines we're running right now. Like we just have this massive, and that's, I mean, like, that's for people still running like the media programs, it's like, wow. The vastness of the scale right now of people that are working out their karmas on this planet is just huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And that's, that's just Earth, right?
That's great. Yeah. We all get to have a play, it's their playground.
What does AB call it? The disunity, karmic resolution, disunity reality. Right.
Wait, say that again.
I'll think of it. I have to think of it. That's not quite right. I have to think of it.
I think he said disunity, remedy, reality.
That's right. Disunity, remedy, reality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, there's a little bit more to it. I'll think of it in a second, but we'll pop back into my consciousness. Yeah. And so that's each of our journey.
Yeah. And speaking about timelines too, like I just saw Herminia's post about I don't trust the astrology info anymore. And I'm like, well, that's pretty right on because even in Nepal, right, their calendar, they're running a 13 moon calendar. They're like 47 years ahead of us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I was teasing our guide And the guy, you know, my friend Kapil that was with us, I was like, you guys are from the future. Because they're like coming back from like 2059 right now, you know, like to just hang out with us in 2022. I was like, well, that's pretty cool.
Well, and you know, you and I have been following the 13 moon, you know, galactic calendar done by Eden Sky, right? Which is a continuation of the end of the Mayan calendar, right? That
Mhm.
ended in the cycle in 2012. But there's also a number of different 13 moon calendars that are running in different cycles. Like I see people posting, you know, and I think it's like a 7-tone day. I see someone posting it's a 1-tone day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, well, in the calendar that that I'm following, right, the 13 moon, it's a 1-tone day,
Yeah.
right? The
Warrior.
magnetic warrior, right? That's
Mhm.
kicking off the next 13-day cycle. So that's
Yeah.
sort of, you know, where my where my timeline is right now.
Yeah. And I think like I was just actually on a call with a friend because we're interested in getting more people kind of tuned in to the galactic calendar, the dream spell calendar, whatever you want to call the mind calendar. You know, Jose Arguelles is remembrance of those cycles of time. And I really emphasize how important it's not important the actual tone or seal of the day. What's important is the cycles within the cycles. And if you just attune to those crossings, you know, because it's like, okay, you have this 7-day cycle nested within a 13-day cycle, nested within a 20-day cycle, within a 28-day cycle. And if you're just paying attention to the flow of those cycles crossing through each other, that's what gets you into harmonic time. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's a 1-tone day or a warrior day or whatever. It's fun to track. It's like an oracle card, right? But it's more about doing it over time, because you get to see the 1320 relationship, and that's the harmonic that's important. That's like the attunement to the nature, where we have this 1260 frequency, and it's like tuning a piano to 440 instead of 432. It's just going like it's this dissonance. So when you actually just get into the rhythm of these pure cycles within each other, that's what's important. It doesn't, you could put any archetype, you could put any frequency on the 1320. I don't think it would matter. You could make it up. You could start it whenever you want to start it. Doesn't matter.
Right, it's the cycle. It's like the wave, right? It's like the, you know, the
Yeah.
waves of the ocean, right? How they come in and go out, the ebb and flow of the tides, just like the ebb and flow of the blood that goes through your heart, right?
Yeah.
Moving from the red road to the blue road, right? The going out and the coming in.
Yeah.
Right? So that energy, the cyclical energy,
Yeah. That's the pattern.
it's like the natural rhythm of Earth Mother.
That's right. Yeah. 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 Ooh, because even like we're talking about, like you're talking about the different 13 moon calendars. I'm aware of the Lakota tradition. They start the new moon before winter solstice, but the Mayan calendar starts in July, like that's where they start their tone one. And I think that's really interesting because it's different seasons, right? I've lived in the Southern Hemisphere for the last 2.5 years, in Australia. And it's like so weird to think of December and it's summer, but
flip flop.
it's totally like banana, right? It's bananas, just like growing up in the Northern Hemisphere and then actually having to flip that. And even in ceremony work, right? In North American, in some traditions, I won't say all because I don't know all, but in some of the traditions, I know they associate the South with fire and the North with the earth. But you flip it in South America, it's like, no, the North is the fire. I'm thinking, well, that makes sense. The equator is North. That's where the sun is. That's where the fire is. It's hotter North in the Southern Hemisphere. It's hotter South in the North.
So we got to bust it like sun. Oh, so my brain stopped.
I know. I
Mid-sentence.
I know. It happens, Yeah. So it's like the association with the different directions and the different elements is like totally different in different cultures. And I think it makes sense. I'm starting to make sense of it. Yeah. And some people say the east is the fire element, because it's where the sun rises, but yeah, it's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
Sun,
bananas.
fire element. The sun being the fire element,
Being the fire element,
and shade being, you could say, the earth element.
earth
or the water
element.
element.
Yeah.
Okay, Lana, I remember it now. Paradox, disunity, remedy,
Remedy, reality.
Yeah.
Yes. You're correct.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember it too, but that was all that I could have remembered.
Just took a minute.
It's not paradox, it's disunity, paradox, remedy,
Disunity,
reality.
paradox, remedy, reality. Yeah.
Disunity, yeah.
Right.
Hey, with all this solstice talk, can I get a group on this? I was just looking at Snake Mound again because I was watching what's his name show on Netflix.
Graham Hancock,
Graham Hancock.
The Ancient Apocalypse.
So for Snake Mound, I just want to see like how we can use
You
it
mean
together.
Serpent Mound?
There's
Thank you.
Serpent Mound. Serpent
Yeah.
Mound.
Serpent Mound in Ohio. Yeah.
There's no difference between a snake and a serpent. So I just gonna never mind. I was gonna share the screen, but I can't, so that's okay.
I can, hang on.
Allow permissions. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was just thinking it's cool with his tail.
Try it
Oh,
now.
well-
Try it now, Sean.
Oh, okay. There we go. So you see my big screen up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was really cool because he had like I made my own little, not like my own little picture here again today. So it's just when you said archaeoastrology, that was kind of fun.
Mm.
But like this hump being the summer solstice, the sunrise. So sunrise, sunrise, sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the summer solstice. We have the spring and fall equinox sunrise. And then we have the winter equinox sunrise.
Winter solstice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it the equinox? I think it's the equinox. Because I think and then because over here we had summer solstice and sunset. And I think this is the winter solstice and sunset. But what I was interested in is kind of like the significance of, well, there's so much, but like just how we could actually use this as internal knowledge. Because there's two ways, because we have the vortex here on the tail. And so the vortex can work in two ways. It can either be bringing things from external into the earth, or it can be bringing things from the tail, from internal, external. Out.
I would love for someone to bring up the actual map of the United States in topo mode, because I can show you something that's happening where this is. I'll show you something. If you
Which
can bring
map?
up-
Which map, Melanie?
Bring up North America map in topo,
Is topo an app or something?
like
Topograph?
like the topographical
Oh,
map,
yeah.
like the stat
Here,
map.
I'll disable this. But I was just looking at the energetics because it is just beautiful the two ways we could use it. Because like with the mouth, we can see all the summer solstice energy, and that's
Yeah.
when we're absorbing the most energy from the sun. And
Yeah.
we're depositing it into our bodies from the exterior internally, all the way until the winter solstice, shortest day of the year. So we're absorbing all that summer light so we can have it in the winter time. But then in the winter time, we can also use the tail, and we can take all that internal earth energy and bring it outwards. So it's cool. It's such a multi-purpose design, this one here.
I totally agree with you. And there's a bigger pattern on the land there. So that's why I'm just asking Tanya
Okay,
to
so
bring this
I'm
up.
pulling this up. And
Yeah,
so we're
so
going to
zoom,
zoom in.
Okay,
And
not that much.
I was there in 20,
Zoom
I think
out, zoom out.
2018 on the summer solstice day, visiting the Serpent Mound, but it was raining, so didn't have any kind of summer effect or anything like that. But it's interesting that you brought that up, Sean, because I was watching that same Graham Hancock uh, piece on the Serpent Mound, and I remember him saying that they planted trees where the sun would set now on the summer solstice. And when I was there, I do remember those trees being there. You couldn't see beyond a certain point. So when the sun would set, it wouldn't line up where you can actually see it.
So
We're watching all the same stuff lately, Lana.
Yeah, so no, keep it where you had it, Tanya, for a second, because I think Serpent Mound is like a little bit south of Cleveland, right?
It's like around right here.
Okay,
It's-
so
Yeah, it's right
The-
outside of Cleveland area there. around
Columbus.
Cleveland.
no,
it's
I think it's
closer to-
outside of Cleveland.
Let's look, hang on.
Okay, but if you just into the next lake and it kind of does this.
Hang on, it'll just pop, here we go.
Okay,
So it will just, oops, shit. It won't give us a, hold please.
Dun, 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 dun.
Experiencing technical
Happy.
difficulties.
okay, zoom it out.
Zoom out. There we go. Come on now. Oh, geezy.
It's funny.
Just hit the negative button down there. Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow, it's way down there. Okay, well, that's interesting too, because that even makes more sense. So go like pull it over so that you can see Maine. Because if you go, do you see how Lake Erie goes into the next lake and it goes through Montreal, Quebec City, and then it pours out in the bay up there? There's a dragon line, major dragon line, and I believe that Serpent Mound is kind of this apex point of the two dragon lines meeting together, because then you have the waterway that goes through Erie, that lake, Montreal, Quebec City, and goes out the bay. And then you have another dragon line that goes through all the cities. It goes through Washington, D.C., it goes through New York, it goes through Boston, it goes through Portland, Maine, and it goes up to Prince Edward Islands. They have this, there are these, and the mountain range goes all in between. So I had this big epiphany when I was going through those eastern cities, because of course, as we know, Washington, D.C. is pretty laid out, gridded out, you know, as it's almost like a root chakra of this dragon line that's on the landway, not the waterway, but there's this other line that goes up through the waterways. I think that Serpent Mound, that would actually be more like the root chakra. Washington, D.C. is almost like the sacral chakra of that line. You go up through New York, and it's a pretty potent little channel there, that whole East Coast vibe. And actually, where did they do when they converted gold into the USD currency, it was on a mountain right in the center of like the throat chakra of that channel. The mountain was like somewhere in New Hampshire, Vermont area. You know what I'm talking about? When they had
No.
that meeting? Okay, so when they changed the gold standard to be all the currencies to be based on the USD, US dollar, that happened on a mountain in the middle of this channel somewhere. It was like some random conference center on a mountain. I had a woman go and do some energy work over there. I know this rainbow dragon lady who lives out there, and I was like, you got to go to this mountain and clear it. But if you watch one of those like documentaries that talks about the fallacy of money or whatever, how it's just based off nothing anymore. Currency used to be based off gold. And at some point in the 70s, a bunch of guys got together in a room and said, we're not going to base this off gold anymore. We're going to base off USD. That's why the USD can't fail, because all the world's currencies are based off the USD right now instead of gold. So there's a big, it's waiting to collapse anytime now. Anytime now. It's a big pyramid. It's gonna crash. But anyways, I think it's Mount Pillier. That's around that area. But it's in that channel where there's two dragon lines. The one is the waterway, one's the landway, and that cityway. Like, it's very, intentional, not intentional, conscious, not conscious. I'm not sure that they created those cities all along that line, but
Well, you think how many of those along the dragon line would have the giant, no, not icebergs, but the giant permafrost masses weighting down all the land, would have been compressing the mineral kingdom to huge degrees. So you'd have all sorts of alchemical reactions. And then you would have that polarity between flatland and highland, because you have compression and decompression. So you'd have natural repulsion all along that line, creating a sort of magnetic resonance.
Major. Yeah, I love that. That's a great input.
Well, and
Here be
the way
dragons.
that AB talks about the Serpent Mound is that the native people who built that mound were using like iron and magnetic, magnetic stones building up that mound. And so when they would do the sun dance and the prayers on the land and the dancing there, that it would create this energetic magnetic resonance that would just ripple through, ripple through the grids and up, up those lines.
It would go up those lines. Exactly right. Yeah, it would go up those lines. I know. Amazing.
So Melanie, maybe you were talking about Jackal Island?
About what?
Jackal Island, maybe? That's what you were talking about or thinking about? Because
I
that's
think
where it's
New
an
Hampshire.
island where the Rockefellers and
Yeah.
the
Oh,
other
that was.
guys got
Oh,
together
that
and-
was. Oh no, that was different, Lana.
No,
the one
she was
that
talking about an
talking-
island, so
the one that she talking about, it was the one these New Hampshires in 1944. He said, that became it's called they call Bretton Woods. I think it's the name of the place, but it was in New Hampshire, 1994.
New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was in New Hampshire.
because Jackal Island is where they kind of got
Well,
together and
Jackal
formed the
Island was-
foundation for the Federal Reserve.
Yes, that was that one. Yeah, for the Federal Reserve with J.P. Morgan and the thing of the
So, okay.
guys. Mhm.
It was the gold standard was a monetary system until 1971, when the U.S. unilaterally terminated convertibility of the U.S. dollar to gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. So that happened in 71, and it happened on this mountain at some conference center right around New Hampshire and Vermont, somewhere in Vermont, New Hampshire. I don't remember exactly. I can't find it, but
yeah, it's at New Hampshire. And they call the hotel Bretton Woods Hotel. So, or they had a meeting.
Mount Washington Hotel, Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Yeah, that's what it was. Mount Washington, of course. So I had a woman go, I told her about it and she was like, I know what I need to do. And she went and like planted a huge quartz crystal on that mountain. She went and did that, but and there's still really beautiful Star Knowledge conferences happening at Serpent Mound. I think pretty much on the equinoxes and solstices, they're still keeping that up.
Yeah,
It was
because
interesting.
I was just trying to think about the idea of how we can use the symbology in our own practice, how its tail has that vortex representing external and internal, how the mouth shows, collecting the galactic external energy, and the tail is like the winter solstice, the dark. Well, we're just our own little seed, and we're just generating our own internal light the whole time, and trying to figure out which part of the year the mouth would be the most potent, and which part of the year the tail would be. Where would you hold your ceremonies, the tail or the mouth, depending on summer solstice and winter solstice?
I mean, the mouth, right, has the geometry of the circle and the triangle, right? And then the tail is the spiral. So I would imagine,
Oh, it
for
is a
me,
triangle.
if I were wanting to really ground something, I would do ceremony within that triangle. And then
'Cause
if I wanted to decreate or create something, I would do ceremony within the spiral.
Because I was thinking at the summer solstice, all that energy would be coming in the triangle, and the triangle's pointing the tail, or pointing towards the tail. Like all that energy would end up right at the tip of the tail. So if someone had a ceremony at the mouth and you were at the tip of the tail, you would be at the manifestation receiving end of all that. And I think in the winter it'd be flip-flop, where all that self internally generated would be coming from the land, from the earth, from the tail, and it'd be coming out to the mouth. So you'd have to do who knows, this is pretty fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just like, you guys are bringing up a lot of like thoughts about the currents that are on the surface of the topography. And then also there's what's going on in the currents underneath the planet, like underneath the surface, there's like a whole grid reconstruction happening right now. There's a lot even what we talked about this, Tanya, like,
yes,
right, I got to Guam and
stuff.
it's like all of a sudden like Mauna Loa is going off, like she's erupting in Hawaii, and we had talked about the connection between Guam and Hawaii before I got here and started shaking stuff.
And like those are the energies that would come out of the tail. The earth energies, those shifts out of the vortex aspect of it, because it would pull it out of the ground.
Well, and looking at the way that the volcanic islands come from Alaska and come up from Hawaii, and then the volcanic islands come up from Guam, they all meet in this, in this certain point, right? That now, all of a sudden, where is the line, going down to Mauna Loa on the Big Island? That's erupting now. Yeah.
Pretty wild to think in that whole macro scale of taking the whole cultural ideologies of each part of that triangle and concentrating them on a specific point.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, and that, that's alchemy, right?
Oh,
yeah. Using the energies of the land and, the sacred sites and the vortexes and the portals, right? To create energetic intention. To me, it's always about intention.
And as Castaneda would say, a good earth boost.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like stuff's happening. People are conscious, they're not conscious. They're drawn to this stuff, like whether it's intentional, ceremonial, or whether it's just like big business, people are attracted to these places. And I'm just thinking, for example, Mexico City, right? That is a huge energy vortex right now. And it's being charged up, and it was before, the whole Teotihuacan, like being, and then all of a sudden all these ancient cities are being uncovered, they're being found underneath the city that was built on top of it. And now there's like this whole tech revolution going on in Mexico City. It's like everyone decided, oh, let's go build there. Like there's a new thing going on. It's like vortexing in there. People are attracted to it, it's because that's shifting, whether it's intentional, ceremonial, or just like people are like, oh, I could grow my startup here, like people are attracted to it. So I think, yeah, I don't know.
One of
Love just
my
doing
one of my clients bought a property in Mexico City. She's an amazing artist, and it's her website is Womb MX, and she's creating this like divine feminine like artist womb right in the center of Mexico City.
It's a powerful place. Major synchronicities, you know, like lots of transformation I've had over there. And that whole ridge all the way around, it's like in a big bowl, you know, like this whole, there's clouds there that are like no other clouds. Like there's 3 places in the earth the clouds grow up like that. In Mexico City, it's cool. People, you know, meteorologists are drawn to it because it's like a phenomenon. It's yeah, lots of fun stuff is happening right now on the planet. I'm just really happy to be, yeah, walking it awake, you know. I could be
Walking it awake.
walking it awake. Yeah, helping people walk it awake.
Yeah,
It's way more fun.
it is way more
yeah.
fun, way more interesting.
But
Being
yeah,
able to
I'm
see the
feeling
big picture.
yeah, I'm feeling like Sean, I gotta roll because it's early here. I gotta get some sleep before
Yeah. Well, thanks, Melanie. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. And if any of you want to join us in Egypt, Melanie and I will be going with other people. And her website, why don't you just tell us how to get a hold of you?
Yep, starbodyearth.com. You can click on tours and click on Egypt and take a look at the plan. I'm going to host a free info session. So if anybody is hearing this and interested, I'm sure I'll be linked in this video. So private message me and I'll send you the link for the info on the tour. I'm going to be hosting a free info call with the guides. So we have 2 guides. We have one who's been an Egyptologist for over 20 years and doing tours in Egypt. And the other one is just such a phenomenal adept. He's lived on the Giza Plateau his whole life. He grew up as a camel driver, didn't actually care at all about the tourism industry, thought it was a crock of, you know, whatever, and then had a near-death experience and was revived by star beings who taught him and guided him to remember his past life there. So he's going to be with us and offering the spiritual pathways for us to enter these temples properly and to do the right work. So do the work the right way. And he's kind of come out of that. He's really able to pick up entities and things that are in the field. So he's going to be helping clear the space. And yeah, so we're going to be on the call, the info call together and answering everybody's questions, and we'll post that up for people to see.
Wonderful. And I can share that. I'll share that on the Earth Nouveau Hub too, if anyone's interested in clicking in.
Right
well,
on.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Everyone, enjoy your day. Thanks for joining us. It's been really a pleasure to see some of those who I haven't seen in a while. Thank you.
It's great to see everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Melanie, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. I can't wait to hear some of the other conversations that get going in this group. Sounds like a really fun exploration happens every week. So I'm excited to come back.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy your
Okay,
day,
bye-bye.
and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you.